Hello and welcome to the Mindset and Hustle Show. My name's Dan Latto and welcome Jonnie, Jensen. How are you this fine Friday afternoon?
I'm good, Dan. Great to be back on the show with you. Fridays, they come around a bit quick though. That's the worrying thing.
Yeah, they're really quick, don't they? I think that's a sign of age, Jonnie.
Well, clearly, when I was a kid, your dad said we're going to London in the car. You'd be like, I don't want to sit in the car for an hour.
No.
The idea of sitting and chilling out for an hour is bloody lovely.
Oh, just having a nap for an hour. God, we're getting on a bit. So in today's session, I want to talk about that as it happens. A nice little segue there. So the two things I want to talk about in today's session. Number one is, do humans hibernate? Now, I know what the answer to that question is, and I know it's a very silly question, but I want to talk about it anyway. And then second of all, I want to kind of to do with the same thing, but it's about coming out of a slump. And so let me put some context around this. So as we're getting towards Christmas, obviously you get towards Christmas and you peak, don't you? And then you come down out of Christmas. And so as you're heading towards Christmas, the nights get darker. And as a species, humans, we fatten up for Christmas. That's, we grow beards and we put weight on. And me losing weight in December is incredibly difficult. And then we put the fire on and it's 4 o'clock and we get cozy. And then one of the things that I've always struggled with, and which is really where this comes from, is coming out of winter. Usually it's April before I even get started. And I'm trying to improve on that and I'm struggling, right? So this is also where coming out of a slump kind of helps. So I just want to talk around that and a couple of things that I've noticed. For example, getting more daylight, for example, is a game changer with that. But also from a mental well-being, people have seasonal affective disorder and they don't get enough vitamin D, and we buy light boxes. And I'm fully aware that we don't hibernate. We're not bears. But honestly, I feel like I'm a bit of a bear sometimes. And the other aspect here is, am I alone in feeling this? Or do other people feel that too? Do you get that as well? Or am I actually on my own?
The reality of simply being cold, or it being colder, meaning we're colder, means blankets come out, slippers go on. I mean, there is an association there with hunkering down. In the same way, when it's summer, what we want to do is grab our flip flops and paddleboard and get down to the beach. So there is a natural ebb and flow to the time of year. But the important part is that we're aware of it so that we have some level of control over ourselves, because clearly losing a month, 2 months because you're on a slowdown isn't great for business, isn't great for the gym, it's not great for fitness. Or, the classic one is, oh, sod it, I'll have another beer, another bar of chocolate. I mean, I'm desperately trying to get the chocolate out of our house after Christmas. It is still...
it's going to be a secret. The secret to that, Jonnie, is you just eat it and it's gone.
No, I know. My boy is ploughing through it, trust me.
But then what happens is you eat it, so it's gone, and then you go, oh, we're almost out of chocolate, we'll go buy some more.
Yeah, well, that's where the habit kicks in, totally, right?
Absolutely. But I think having some pattern interruptions in there to recognise, okay, I am feeling hibernatory. I think that's a word.
True word. True word.
Is it? Okay. And just recognising that. So then going, okay, maybe I do need one of those Philips light boxes. Maybe I do need to open up the curtains, because I work from my lounge. I've got a corner in the lounge and all the curtains are closed. I've actually just opened them, and we've got shutters because it's cold here in Spain. It's relative. It's like 12 degrees. I know you guys are freezing your nuts off. But letting more light in has definitely helped. Getting up and going to CrossFit. I mean, I went to CrossFit yesterday. It was 8 o'clock. It was still dark. At 8:30, it was still dark. Which I find really difficult. Normally, I love summer. I love it. It's 34 degrees and it's 9 a.m. and you're sweating and you've not even left the house yet. And it's so hot. I mean, you work out, and I absolutely love that. And I just find it really difficult to actually get started again. I'm like one of those cars. You must have had a car like this where you turn the engine off and it doesn't start again. Right? Like we've all had those cars. Again, maybe it's just me, but cheapskate Dan. But I can't get the car started again. So do you feel that going into spring?
I feel it coming out of Christmas, to be honest. You know,
Yeah.
there's a lot of conversation, you know, in New Year about making sure you hit the ground running in New Year, because there's a slowdown quite naturally running into Christmas, you know, and then if you take time to get back up to speed, before you know it, if you've gone 20th of December or even sooner through to 10th, 15th of January, there's a month gone there.
Yeah.
So it's for me, this topic, like pretty much any topic around mindset, is a level of awareness. Because if we go into this blindly and not being conscious of it, then that's where it does we allow it to take hold, too big a hold, or we allow it to go on for too long, or we allow in our minds to think, oh well, I've let it all go now, so what's the point? You know, because that's just stupid as well. You go, actually, I'm going to let it go over Christmas because it's everywhere and we're having drinks and we're doing all that.
Yeah.
But I do know that come, you know, Jan 2nd, Jan 5th, I'm going to be back in the gym. I'm going to be, and not just as a New Year's resolution, but as in I'm back in the game. I'm going to work at optimum level. And knowing as well, if it is blooming cold, if it is dark in the morning, then it's going to take something extra. But then that comes back to our vision, our why, you know, who else are we involving, what kind of declarations we're making to ourselves and others, so that there's something at stakes, you know, so that these circumstances don't wash over us and we're just flapping around in the wind. Can you be washed over and flap around? I'm mixing my metaphors there. But it's really important, because if we're in a race and, you know, 5 people ahead of us are up and running and we're still, you know, titting about at the start, then clearly that's a problem. And then finally, when some people then go into, oh, what's wrong with me? Why can't I do this? And they start thinking it's all about them. Actually, no, it's the circumstances. Be tuned into it and let's go.
Yeah, and the genetics to some extent, because we're still human at the end of the day, most of us are. And other than those aliens walking around hidden as humans, I'm sure there must be a few of us, but we are human, right? And so we have this genetics, which is, you know, we hunker down in winter and we're trying to battle against that sometimes. And that can be quite a difficult challenge to battle against. And then there's another angle I wanted to cover here as well. There's kind of 2 aspects here. One is fake and one is real, right? So I'll do the fake one first.
Yeah.
So the fake one, for example, is as a digital marketing agency owner, I've got content going out all the time, right? So like this, we'll pull out the little short videos, we'll schedule those. We've got short videos going out until, I don't know, like March or April, right? So that's the fake side of things, because I've already done that work and we're already pushing out content. So it looks on the outside like, oh, Dan's not hit a slump at all. Dan's putting out the same amount of content as he always does. But it's fake because I've already done that content. Behind the scenes, I might be hunkered down under my duvet watching Netflix, you know, Monday through Friday, for the whole of January. But most people wouldn't know that. Yeah. But the second angle is the true angle, which is me standing up and being me and going live, like this is a live stream, for example, and going live every day. And actually, we are trying to do that. And we have actually done quite well this week and last week in putting that content out. But it still comes back down to the person and what they're going through mentally. Like, is everybody else back at work? Because that helps. Because if everyone else is back at work, oh shit, I need to be back at work. Otherwise, that makes me the odd one out. So I need to get back on track. And even that's weird, because I'm not like everybody else. I'm either leading the pack or I'm creating my own pack. I don't tend to lead other people's packs. But then is that hypocritical? Because I've just said that actually I'm looking at what other people are doing. Well, they're back at work. I better pull my socks up and get moving. So I just find that really interesting as well. I don't know if you've got any comments about that.
There's always both a danger, a risk and a positive of looking at others and comparing to others. If we compare too much, then our motivations are all about other people and some kind of coming from some kind of concern or pressure. Having said that, looking at other people who are successfully doing something that we want to do or have achieved something that we're looking to achieve, well, that simply makes sense. That's modeling, you know, and we should do that. So again, it comes back down to this conscious awareness. You know, If it's frantic, that's never going to help. If it's calculated and structured, then we'd be mad not to do that.
Yeah.
So, in terms of my work with High Value Man program and the men that are inside that, or for example, we just kicked off the One Thing challenge, right? And we do this a couple of times a year, and you've got to give up one thing for 4 weeks. It's kind of a piece of piss, right? We're not talking about crack addicts, right? We're talking about bread, coffee, cans of Red Bull. Like there's something like that people like having, and they're going to give it up for 4 weeks.
Yeah.
When you've done, and I do that regularly, almost just for kicks, really. If I'm drinking coffee, I'm like, oh, my head is just weird. I know it's caffeine. I'm not doing that. Bread, I kind of get a bit habitual about bread. It sort of starts slow, and the next thing I know, I'm fruit toast at breakfast, sandwich at lunch, all the packages I'm making dinner, I'll buy a French stick. And I go, this is madness. I'm absolutely scoffing bread at the moment. So I just go, right, I'm cutting that out. And you notice what it takes over those first 10. And if it's something you've never really played with before, it could be the first 3 weeks, but you just like fighting through, like, why am I thinking about bread? Why am I staring at Costa Coffee as I drive past it? It's breaking that association and coming out on the other side knowing that actually we've got control over that thing. So this is no different, really. It's winter. Am I on a bit of a go slow? Could be. What am I going to do about it? What's the impact? Or what's the impact? What am I going to do about it? Right, okay, I've got this. And when we live from that place, like, I know what's going on and I've got this, there is a peace about it. So we can calmly crack on. We can think, well, what's it going to take to make these videos over this period of time? You've put your team around you. You put a plan in place. There's conscious activity there to counter the effect, which is very different than panicking or not having a clue.
And it's really interesting because in every conversation that we've had, I think we're on like number 5 or 6 of these that we've done. And in every conversation that we've had, it's for conscious awareness and then from being consciously aware of what's happening, making a conscious decision to change the result through the actions that we take. And as we grow up as people through the school system in particular, I think, probably from our parents as well, but I kind of feel like we're told or we feel that life happens to us and we should just accept that. And yeah, you might be able to improve little negligible bits, but you can't control everything, Dan. I can hear it in my voice. You can't control it, my parents, you can't control everything. And I'm like, fuck that. I can control everything, as near as damn it. For example, this upsets a lot of people, but I don't vote, for example, because I don't vote because my vote is equal to a crackhead's vote. So it just cancels each other out, right? So what's the point? And somebody else on Twitter just this week said, oh, but if you vote, you have a voice, you can make a difference. I'm like, no, you can't make a difference. But as a business owner, I can go, okay, let's launch a brand new product tomorrow. It's £1,000. Let's go out and find 30 clients, £1,000 a month, 30 grand a month. That's life-changing money for everybody, unless you're Prince William. Poor Prince William's obviously off work at the moment, isn't he? I don't know how he's coping with his 3 kids and his 18 nannies and his 28 butlers. Poor bastard. So sorry, Jonnie. I think you like the Royals, don't you? So, so it's like you can have a conscious decision to make these changes. And I'm not saying that you can make 30 grand a month, £1,000, 30 clients, but it's as easy as that. But why? What if it was? What if we could make that conscious decision? Then if you're in this, hibernatory, you feel like you're in a slump, but then you've got this opportunity to do that. I guarantee that if you knew you could do that in 30 days, you wouldn't be in that slump. And again, that comes down to being consciously aware of where you are, knowing what your why is, that this life-changing money potentially, and then making the conscious decisions to take these actions that will get you to this point. Very interesting, I find. In every conversation we have, it's always about being consciously aware. And I don't think that most people are consciously aware. They just meander through life and life hits them up.
The scary thing about this, right, is that before people, and this could be the media, let alone individuals, right, before we get to a question such as, oh, what's the value in that? Like, oh, that's interesting. What could that do for me? Someone comes in and goes, oh, that's a load of bollocks, right? Like woo-woo.
Yeah.
And I haven't got in my mind, I'm trying to say something here, but I don't have the full picture what I'm about to say, right? But there's a like an emotional resilience test that can be done, that when you go through and you ask people questions about a certain situation, right? I think this can be a therapy thing as well. But when you hold out your arm, when you're really certain about something, and they say, right, I'm going to hold out your arm and we're going to go through this list of factors, this list of ideas, this list of challenges. Really doesn't matter whatever it is. It's a list of things. Now, if it's something you've got a natural resistance to or a concern, let's say someone was talking about relationships, right? And they said particular friends, they said particular brother, they said your wife, right? And one of those, when they pushed on your arm, you had way less strength in the matter. That would be because you had something going on for that person, or you had an unresolved issue, or it could be something, your relationship is rock solid, and then your arm just won't shift it. And it's that level of power and control that operates at a subconscious level, that when we do think this, when we are focused, when we do have clarity, that we get into this energy field, that we have more power in the moment, that we have a subconscious say in what's actually going to happen. And that's why certain people do just turn things on and make them happen, or do just walk into a room and the room lights up, or when they have the mental awareness to actually just get on and win something, get fit and win. Look at that, the darts kid at Christmas, the little guy, his surname was Little, right? He's 17. And when he talks, he's like, oh yeah, I have an omelette for breakfast, a kebab for lunch, a pizza for what, I play Xbox for a few hours. But there's something in his mind where he's absolutely resolute about how good he is at darts. He's just like, well, clearly I'm awesome at this, which gave him strength at Christmas in the World Championships to push through situations that would be otherwise stressful at just 17.
Yeah.
And people can say, oh, he's talented and he's had the right people around him, and of course, all those things, but inside there's something that is individually strong. And
I also think that people imagine that someone like that, and they say, oh yeah, but he's just really strong-willed. And who's the guy, the singer? I bloody hate his songs these days. They get played all the time. Lewis, and he played at Glastonbury.
Oh no, Lewis Capaldi.
Yeah, Lewis. It's Tourette's kicked in.
Awful music.
I'm sure people love it.
I can't cope with it. It just goes around. Green, is that green grass?
Yeah.
No, get out of my brain.
It's Alexa Next every single time it comes on. It has to be said. But I think people seem to think that you're just born with this level of confidence. And it's like, if you actually could look under the hood, flip top head, have a look inside, you'd realize that actually most people have no idea what they're doing. They're just pretending that they know what they're doing without actually knowing what they're doing. Everything's a best guess based on experience sometimes, based on education sometimes. And it's like, well, if you think about that, if you're not confident walking into a room, there's two reasons why you're not confident. One is education and one is experience, right? It's where confidence comes from. So you might read a book on how to walk into a room. Now you're educated, but you've not walked into enough rooms yet, i.e. you're not experienced enough. You do those two things, you walk into enough rooms, having read enough books, you'd be confident as you like. You've got so many different angles to go down. And I think for when people are in a slump, and they are usually unconfident about what the future holds, right? Which is why they're in a slump, which is why they can't get out of bed. And it's like, well, first up, you can design how you want the future to look. And then second of all, you have to do the actions to get to that point. And then that's where confidence comes in. You might not have the education about what the actions are, and you might not have the experience on what those actions are. So it's like, okay, so start reading about it, then start doing it, and you're going to make a load of mistakes on the way, 10 years to become an overnight success. And then it clicks, because now you know what you're doing, and you've done it enough times, and it's like falling off a log. I spoke to a guy who was in Miss Saigon. He's one of the lead singers in Miss Saigon. It was at Bradford Alhambra many years ago, 10, 15 years ago. And I was talking to him about, do you ever worry that you're going to get something wrong or forget a line? It's like, do you ever forget how to use a keyboard? I'm like, no. It's like, it's the same thing. He's done it that many times. He used to get it wrong at the start because he didn't know what he was doing and he was inexperienced, right? Now he's done it for 10 or 15 years. It's inside out and back to front. And most people aren't prepared to take that journey to get to that point because they made a mistake on day 2 or day 3 or day 4, and then they're in this slump. And it's like, you just got to keep going, putting one foot in front of the other, and knowing you're going to make these mistakes is what's going to get you through onto the other side. And without these mistakes, there is no victory. And so you have to keep pushing through.
Yeah. Love that. Without these mistakes, there is no victory. I love that. I put out a little, a reel today, which was a reference to Esther Hicks and things are always working out for me. And it's interesting what you just said there about the two things. I wonder where expectation comes into that. Now, in some personal development circles, it's like, well, expectation will screw you over every time, because if you're waiting for something, you're expecting something to happen, then you know what, you're not living in the present. But as a mindset, things are always working out for me. If you stand in that position with every confidence, then even without experience, even without knowledge, it's just like, do you know what? Yeah, I'll do it. And which does lean into that, the journey and what you gain from the experience, whether it goes well or not. I don't know what the outcome's going to be, but I'm damn sure I'm going to give it my best, and I'm damn sure it's going to be worth it, because things are always working out for me.
What's interesting is in NLP and goal setting, and I remember doing this with my wife, for example. So it was, you put yourself into the future. Let's say it's 5 years into the future, and you're walking on the beach hand in hand with a beautiful woman. And in my mind, I knew what she looked like. I knew how old she was. I knew what she did for a living. I knew what her values were. And then you put yourself into that moment, and you can smell the sea, and you can feel the sand between your between your toes, and the cold water washing up, and you can hear the, not seagulls, but you can hear the birds going over, and the palm trees, and you can hear the palm trees swaying, so as though you're really there in that moment. And this is one of the really big things in NLP, is that a memory happens in the past. This is just a future memory of something that hasn't happened yet. And I'll say that again because it's a bit of a head mess up, right? It's a future memory. It just hasn't happened yet. But that memory is one of many memories that hasn't happened yet. It's up to you to choose which one you want to happen. And then these are the steps. So in 5 years' time, as you're looking back at now, you look at all the things that you had to do that would get you to that point. And then you just go do those things. And then you're like, oh, okay. So now you're actually looking back as well. You're 5 years in the future at now, and you go, oh, okay, so I do need to get up and out of bed, and I do need to turn Netflix off, and I do need to open up the curtains and go to CrossFit and laugh and dance and do all these things, you know, because I always, when I cook, I dance in the kitchen. I think we talked about that last week, didn't we? And it's so important. And these are the things. But people go, oh, well, I don't know if it'll work. Oh, so you should do nothing, right? Because if it doesn't work, that's a much better idea than trying all this stuff and having it maybe work. You're much better off not working. That's sarcasm, by the way, for people listening. And so I find that really interesting, the memory that hasn't happened yet. And if you picture that clearly enough and put yourself into that situation, then it becomes real to you, and you're much more inspired and motivated to actually go and do those actions.
Yeah, and Dr. Joe Dispenza, he's put a lot, and he's not just the only one, right? But there's a lot of money and energy going into the science of this at the moment about the quantum mechanics and actually what energy our thoughts create. But even before you get to that, if we stretch that conversation out and sort of imagine people slowing down time and looking at what they're actually doing, if in your mind, a bit like Spider-Man and the multiverse, right? If in your mind you've got 4 different outcomes, one really amazing, one really crap, right, full of doubt and concern, you don't have to be a scientist or a neuroscientist to understand or grasp the idea that if you focus on the one, the bad outcome, the thing that you're most worried about, more than you focus on this insanely positive result that's going to transform your life, it should go without saying that whether you mean it or not, you're going to head towards the thing that you think about most. And that, for me, that's just obvious. Like if you hit a golf ball or kick a ball or throw a ball, unless you're flipping awesome at that sport and you can do like a no look, it's going to go the direction you look. It's that basic.
And interestingly, the self-talk that goes alongside that. So if you go, well, this is the outcome that I want, but I probably won't get it. Out of those 4 paths, which path do you think that's going to put you on? Well, it's going to put you on the negative one. And it's like, well, if you change that to, oh, well, I'm probably not going to make it, I'm not good enough. And then it's like, oh, no, screw that. Do you know what, Jonnie? I am fucking amazing. Of course I'm good enough. I played basketball, and this kid came up to me and he went, you think you're really good, don't you? I'm like, of course I do, motherfucker, of course I do. And I went and kicked his ass. And then I told him afterwards, that's how good I am. That's where we should be, and that's how we should position ourselves. And that's not to be cocky. And I know that was cocky, right? And it's not to be doing it in a cocky manner. But like, someone's got to be you. You might as well be the best version of you rather than a shitty version of you, because the shitty version of you sucks, right? Doesn't get out of bed, has crap relationships, doesn't work out, eats crap, stays up late at night, drinks too much Red Bull and coffee, doesn't do all the other things that you're supposed to do. Well, that's easy to go down that path. It's much more difficult to go down a path where you're consciously aware of, this is what I want, these are the steps that I'm going to take that will get me there, and I recognize that I will have obstacles in the way and I will have failure in the way, but it's irrelevant. I'm just going to do it anyway. And just being the best version of you out of those four outcomes, that's going to help you get onto the outcome that you want.
Exactly. And bringing this back to the hibernation subject, it's a chunk of time. It's a 12-week period. How you decide to play it is really up to you. But knowing it's a bit cold and I'm probably not going to do as much running outdoors right now, that's fine. But then what you're going to sub in? Okay, well, I'm going to use this time to make some more content, or I'm going to use this time to write an ebook or learn about how our AI can help my business, so that it's productive. And then really we are at the steering wheel of our life, a life by design. Yeah,
I love that. Well, today's a short one today, and I think we're probably going to stick with 30 minutes or around the 30-minute mark on these. And I think we've covered the hibernation thing. For me, it was just something. I was talking to a guy yesterday, and he's kind of struggling, and I'm like, you need to put all these things in place, and so hopefully he's off to do those. But we had a conversation around hibernating and his acceptance of this idea that, well, this is what we do as humans. We hibernate in winter. And I'm like, no, it's a choice. And I kind of agreed with him to some extent. I didn't tell him that. But I actually kind of agreed with him. And then I'm like, shit, it is a choice. And so it comes down to the choices that we make will get us to where we want to get to. As long as we make the right choices, instead of the easy, lazy choices, we'll get to where we want to get to.
Absolutely.
Right. Thank you, Jonnie. Give us your website addresses again, will you?
Yeah, the High Value Man program. If you go to jonniejensen.com, everything you need there to get involved. We can do a power call together. And of course, you can get onto Facebook and simply search High Value Man Community. And we'd love to have you inside the brotherhood there.
That's awesome. Have yourself a wicked weekend. And everyone else who's listening, have a great weekend as well. Thank you, Jonnie. Take care.